Raila Odinga attended the burial of Malawian Vice President Chilima. And I followed that event on what exactly happened. I looked at, and I know the reason why Raila was there, and I think I had mentioned earlier that William Ruto did not, in the Republic of country Kenya, I did not see them writing a condolence message or a solidarity message with Malawi. I tried to check Samia Suluhu. Yes, there was a post. I cannot confirm that that was official, but I think there was a post from Samia Suluhu. And of course, Malawi is not in East Africa. Yes, so we're not so much attached, but is an African country. So Raila was in Malawi, allegedly, and of course can be confirmed to represent William Ruto, and was supposed to send his message. So let's look at this video. This is the time he arrived. And I'm told the stadium, I think Raila is Raila Odinga. There is sometimes why when some people say Raila doesn't need an introduction anyway. He doesn't need any introduction. So when he was there, he was tagging along Ambassador Ogendo, Caroline Karugu, the former Nyeri deputy governor, and he had his team. The reason why Raila also, I think, was to be there was to campaign for his position as the African Union chairperson. Then he shared his pleasantries. He shared, of course, he went there, attended. The stadium was actually in a big standstill by that time. And then after that, he took his position. And you will see the way the euphoria was around that. But I took in interest in his speech. He had I think, less than around 6-minute speech. But by the time he spoke about the pan-Africanism message, he got a standing ovation from the crowd. And then that is what captured my attention. And I wanted to listen to a snippet of his speech there. From that speech, it was clearly the instances where he spoke about the African. Africa is yearning for something. And this is the message. If you read the mood in Malawi, Malawi is the other southern part, not southern part, but SADC, it's part of the SADC nation. If you read that and what Ibrahim Traore is saying in Burkina Faso, and the kind of traction that Traore has gotten, you will understand why it's really true. People are saying Africa needs its freedom. Let's get this speech from Traore.
You all need to be strong. And being strong is not only the logistical plan, but also the psychological plan. There is this family stability that every fighter needs when he is on the battlefield. We have all been on the ground. We have experienced situations that often, being on the ground, you have the spirit at home because you can't solve a certain number of problems. Maybe financially, it usually comes down to that. And it disturbs the fighter. Today we have many wounded. We have also realized that this issue has not been treated as it should. The proof is that until the time I speak to you, we have not been able to list all those who have been injured since the beginning of this conflict. As a result of the course, we have decided to launch a platform so that people who have been injured, who have not had a circumstantial relationship, or who have not been reported, can register themselves on this list. I think that a few weeks ago, we had a conference in this same room to launch this process because an agency has been created precisely to take care of war wounded. In the same order of ideas, we therefore thought of the VBE and ARFLN, which will also be listed in all layers of the FDS uniform wearers, so that we can take care of them. And schools for the pupils of the nation will be born. And in our education policy, which we want at some point so that education is free in Burkina Faso, we want this gratuity to start with these schools for the pupils of the nation, in particular, the orphans of our heroes. In addition to all this, which was the first time the agency was created to take care of the wounded, the VVE and the orphans, we are now in a new phase to tackle the area that is very important to the military, the financial area. We wanted to introduce you to this cooperative this morning. How will it work? What are the objectives of this cooperative? What do we aim for through the cooperative? And as we go along in all the garrisons, missions will have to go to explain the well-being of this cooperative and explain to people what they can expect from this cooperative. And in return, the questions you asked me this morning, in the different garrisons, you will have asked a lot of questions. And I think a General Assembly is also planned in the cooperative's organogram so that the contributions, the different contributions to improve, can come from you. We want you to be able to save at a much higher rate and have quite specific savings, each according to what they want in the products that will be offered. When the military is confronted after its first loan with concerns, the old ones have left for the long term because the remuneration is not enough. It cannot be proportional to the expenses. And I think the old ones have thought very well by introducing, I think it was since the 80s, the fact that the FDS can undertake in areas such as agriculture and livestock. So how to undertake? This is the second equation. Here too, the cooperative must be able to respond, to be able to allow you to invest in this area, because it is not forbidden. Today, we launched the Present Initiative for Food Self-Sufficiency. We launched the Agricultural Offensive. And in the initiative, the military are concerned. And I think many of you have seen in their barracks, in their garrisons, the chances of developing this season. I think that in Ouagadougou, here in Ouagadougou, Kayate, Nonkodu, a little bit everywhere, large forages have been dug, and the military will be trained in agriculture, in livestock, in rather particular speculations. And I think that in Ouagadougou there is a dog, Dananda, which is developing. We must be able to produce to help our people too. It is around here, but many want to invest. How to do it? This will also be taken into account so that we can help you to be able to invest in this area, because agriculture feeds the whole people. That's why we authorized it for clothing carriers. Livestock feeds the people. These are the other businesses that we do not authorize. Even in the office environment, salary is not enough. It is not possible. But if you manage to undertake something that contributes to something else, to improve your living conditions, to participate in the life of the nation, I think it's not bad. It does not prevent any kind of combat, because these are other jobs that you create. You are on the ground. When there are situations behind, it is settled. Burkina imports a lot in the matter. You know that we import a lot of farm products. For just the mining structures there, it is not enough. But the army must participate. That is why in the initiative we decided to train the military, for those who are in activity and for those who will also go to the retreat. For their reform, to invest, you will need money, an investment at a fairly low rate, without too much fraud. And I think that the cooperative is there to solve this problem as well. I said and I repeat, no nation can develop without a strong defense and security system. It is not possible. Look closely since the 90s. It's a good thing the old ones are here. How was the army under the revolution equipped? You can go to the camps and look at the armored carcasses and others that were there. How could we dismantle all that to make us very weak and now send terrorism to take over our lands? Understand that. To develop, you need a strong army. You need a strong security system. And to have this system, it's not just logistics. We need to be stable in the head. And to be stable in the head, you have to look at the living conditions of the brave fighters you are. We are therefore committed to this process so that the living conditions of the FDS can improve. We will be proud to be able to improve the living and working conditions of ourselves and our families. This is why this cooperative has been thought about and reflected. And in addition to the cooperative, there will be another phase that concerns the economy of the armies, because the civilians also encourage this. They want to see you in shape. They want to see you free in your head to be able to defend them. Otherwise, they will not contribute so that we can equip you. We want everyone to understand the scope of the cooperative. We want the cooperative to be able to explain this to its comrades and to be able to develop this quickly so that we can drastically change things in a short period of time. The factory that we recently launched in Bobo is in the same order of ideas. When we see FDS walking around in undressed clothes, it hurts. And we have evaluated what we spend every year. Police, national police, municipal police, GSP, gendarmerie, customs, army. What we spend on the purchase of clothes is enormous. It is billions, and it is the employment that we give abroad. So we decided to put the factory in place to produce everything that is undressed to see you well dressed. So the Comipec is one step. Other steps will come as we go. Everyone is involved, the Minister of Finance in the front line, so that we can create something, a performing tool, on which we will have a look that must allow our different forces of defense and the security forces to live with dignity and to fight for the freedom of our country. It is the very essence of the creation of this cooperative. Here it is the idea of mutual based on the principle of solidarity.
So this is what I'm saying. That the messaging, that there is something the continent is yearning for. The continent is yearning for itself, its own identity, its own success. Recently, when Mnangagwa was in Russia, he attended a Russia summit, and when he was speaking to Putin, I saw that video trending, and so I checked out the comment section on some people because, of course, because of Ukraine invasion by Russia, Russia had not been receiving very good bonga points in the continent because of that one-sided Western story of non-provocative, that they invaded Russia non-provoked. And in the continent, people had been against Russia. But I followed that comment section. That video was shared in some YouTube channels, some global channels, and even the Twitter pages. And people are saying that Africa needs someone who can listen to itself and someone who can help develop it there without taking away the resources. And let me explain this, why we really need to. If you read the story of the Malawian vice president, you know, it was also riddled, the late Malawian vice president, it was also riddled by some, some corruption scandals here and there, with some business from the British. I think I read that story by the time he passed on. And again, you follow up the circumstance around the death of the Malawian vice president, you will understand why Africa really needs to find its own footing. Imagine it took the soldiers more than 24 hours to locate where that body was, where the chopper that crashed was. And you can remember the party of Chilima was even complaining. They've been complaining that the urgency, or rather the reaction of the president of Malawi during that death was wanting. They complained about it. Until when he made the press briefing at night, I analyzed that video here. Then he called for the support of US, UK, and some countries. And in the continent, only Zambia went there, sent its military equipment there, and then that is what carried the body from the place. So you will understand that Africa is still having a lot of problems. And when they hear of a message, you know, there's so many diagnoses in it. Someone can say Raila is known, but of course Raila is known across the globe. It's an understanding that Raila doesn't need any introduction. But when the continent hears pan-Africanism message, the continent wakes up. He was making a long speech. Why? There is something Africa is yearning for. And this is what I see from that Malawi event. The Western dalliance by Ruto is a big stab on Raila Odinga's AU bid. And I think I've listened to Musali AU, that African Union chairperson bid, a commission chairperson bid. I've listened to Musali saying they have employed, a multi-sectoral approach by government to do it. Let Odinga go and speak to Africa as a continent. Let Raila, just give Raila the resources so that Raila must disassociate himself with William Ruto. Because that Western dalliance is not something welcomed. I was just reading, I think there is a story, I should get it. Yeah, there is a story here, look at this, that there is a delegation from Ukraine or so that went to Uganda, was meeting Museveni here, and wanted Uganda to participate in that Ukraine-Russia peace talk. And Uganda declined and really, he lectured that, that delegation, the Ukraine delegation, for nearly 2 hours. If you read that tweet, that's what that tweet is saying. So, the understanding that William Ruto is the Western puppet must then really mean that Raila Odinga must create a very big diagonal between him and William Ruto. Because with that, any slight attempt that what he's doing, he's working in cahoot with President Ruto, then that's where you miss the line. Number 2, the Pan-African pitch, I think, should be well spread, and Raila must also target the Sahel region. The condemnation of the African Union on the Sahel nations, and that has Sahel territories actually expanding, Raila should not be part of that and should not align with that school of thinking. Just the same way I saw he aligned with the understanding that Somaliland need to be independent. He must go to, because that is what the continent wants. The continent is not yearning for the West puppets. The continent wants its own identity. The other aspect you can also see here is the continent's resources leaders are talking about must work, because the population is yearning for economic freedom. There is some sort, everyone is yearning for that freedom. And remember, that is the image that that Raila Odinga cuts across the continent. So, lastly, someone asked me to ask you a question. William Ruto is normally putting Pan-African counter suits here, but when he goes to Europe, he doesn't do those suits. Why? If you have an answer, please, let's read it. The person who asked me here, check at the comment section. Let's see whether guys are going to have feedback for that. Thank you.